Hello everyone, my name is Brett Salt. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Ferrexpo. It's a great pleasure to be able to speak to you today virtually about decarbonisation of the steel industry and the challenges that it sets for Ukraine and how Ferrexpo plans to respond. Firstly, just a brief introduction to Ferrexpo. We are the third largest global exporter of iron ore pellets, exporting over 12 million tonnes in 2020. And we have maintained a premium listing on the London Stock Exchange for many years, a member of the FTSE 250 and the FTSE for Good. We've also been positioning our business for climate change and the future that brings. Ferrexpo's high-grade iron ore pellets enable steelmakers the opportunity to reduce their CO2 emissions by up to 40%. And we've started to position and sell direct reduction pellets, which is the main pathway to green steel, with 2 trial cargoes last year and having signed a long-term contract this year. Turning to the next slide, we're very proud of our performance over many years. Safety, which is always first, has been very good for Ferrexpo over a number of years. And in fact, we've maintained metrics in the safety region better than some of the Pilbara producers in Australia. We've continued to grow our business. We increased our production of pellets last year by 7% to over 11 million tonnes, with high-grade pellets representing close to 100% of our total production. We also invested in growth with $206 million spent on capital last year, taking the total investment we've made in our business since IPO to close to $3 billion. In the space of carbon, we've continually reduced our carbon footprint, and last year we reduced our CO2 emissions by 16%. We have been doing that with reliable state infrastructure, both electricity, gas, railways and ports. We have an established production and logistics chain which we own. 6 million tonne port at Tisruta. We own 3,600 rail cars, a piece of a rail barging business, and also a transshipping business, which allows us flexibility to load larger vessels and also deliver to customers directly in Europe. Turning to the next slide, we've been consistently delivering growth and we're well positioned for the recent market strength. Over the years, we've reduced our footprint of lower grade pellets and are now producing 99%, 65% Fe pellets. And we've moved into direct reduction, 67% pellets over the last year. And this year, as I mentioned earlier, we've signed our first long-term contract in the DR space. These pellets are crucial to green steel and the future of the green steel industry. And Ferrexpo is well positioned for that growth. Turning now to steel production, if you think about the methods of making steel, 2 main methods are around the blast furnace, which uses a high amount of coal, which leads to a larger carbon footprint, and the electric arc furnace, which reduces the iron using electricity, therefore no coal and lower carbon footprint. These 2 are bookends for the steel industry in terms of its future and its past. Both have a place in the future, however. If you're looking at the next slide, we can see that lowering emissions really is around reducing the amount of steel that is produced by a blast furnace and moving towards DRI and EAF production processes. Up to a 95% reduction over a blast furnace is possible using hydrogen in an HBI and EAF process. And again, in these processes, it's critical to have pellets, and in particular, direct reduction pellets. And in the next slide, we talk here about where the governments of the world are moving, and the European Union, as well as others around the world, are all moving towards a carbon neutrality declaration, some by 2050, some by 2030, others by 2060. To be in this space requires you to have the right feed. And in the next slide, we talk about Ferrexpo's own journey to carbon neutrality. Clearly, most of our emissions are generated in electricity and in diesel mining. So as we look to a pathway to carbon neutrality, we're focused initially on things that we can control, looking to take the diesel out of the mining fleets, electrify them, looking at different sources of renewable energy for electricity to reduce our carbon footprint and our emissions with it. And of course, in natural gas and pelletizing. And looking at that specifically in the next slide, there's a number of major streams that we have in play for improvement. We're looking to blend some hydrogen into our natural gas for the pelletizers this year. We're obviously producing DR pellets, which we talked about before, reducing our consumption of gas by recuperating heat as we transition to hydrogen in the pelletizers. Clearly using more sustainable carbon-free sources of energy, such as nuclear and hydrogen, away from thermal coal. We've been successful in doing that this year and the last. And as I mentioned earlier, electrifying the haul trucks to remove diesel consumption, in addition to solar farms. And if I can look at that now in a little more detail on the next slide, we have a project which we're launching this month for a 5 megawatt solar farm pilot project, which we hope to scale around the mine in the future to help us to add to our renewable energy footprint, sourced and produced on the mine's lease. In the next slide, we also talk about biofuel. We started off using sunflower husks in 2015 as another source of energy for the pelletizer. And over the course of the last 5 years, we've increased that from 1% to 25%. And we continue to increase the use of sunflower husks in our pelletizing process and reducing thereby our natural gas consumption. So in conclusion, Ferrexpo's volume growth will be driven through modular expansions of existing production facilities. We're going to focus on quality as we always have and move further down into the direct reduction pellet segment, which we think is the long-term future for iron and steel. We're also leveraging green technology for solar power, increasing the use of biofuel, and decarbonising our mining fleet. All of these pieces of the puzzle will add to Ferrexpo's support both of the industry and our growth in the future. Thank you very much.